Because one of the reasons people never make progress in building a healthy marriage is because they are living with a suspicion that I shouldn't be married to this person. I'm married to the wrong person. And somewhere out there is the right person. So I never commit my hat. It's no good giving me insights to build a great marriage because I shouldn't be in it. This is the wrong person. And the moment you believe that lie, the moment you believe that, see, you've got to know this, there is no right person. There's no one out there that is your perfect match. You're too broken to have a perfect match. You need too much help to have a perfect match. I mean, if Helen was looking for a perfect match, she wouldn't be married to me, I can promise you that. I'm too naughty, I'm too in need to be her perfect match. There is only broken people. And the miracle about marriage is that someone sees enough in you to be willing to take the commitment. I'll take the imperfect with the good and we'll build something great together. And until you deal with that nonsense that the reason our marriage is no good or the reason our marriage is struggling is because I married the wrong person, you will never make progress. You've got to rip that out of your heart. It isn't true. And if I could help you to get it out of your heart, suddenly life would change because now you'd realise there is no perfect person. There is no magical person out there with whom my bad behaviour would disappear. Well, I'd be perfectly... I'm not happy. Were you happy when you were single? No. Well, why did you think getting married would change that? You were miserable single, you'd be miserable married. You need help. And the reality is that when you have a lie that you believe you've married the wrong person and that's the problem, you just keep on. It's like water off the duck's back. I give you real good help and it'll just... You've got to deal with that. Marriage is the commitment to an imperfect person. And as a result, the most important thing is to realise it requires two of us. Doesn't matter how hard one tries. Even God couldn't make this marriage with Israel work. What do you want? One of the saddest lines you'll ever read in the Bible, revealing a broken heart in heaven? Listen to this. The word of the Lord came to me, go and proclaim in the hearing of Jerusalem. This is what the Lord says. I remember the devotion of your youth, how as a bride you followed me and loved me and followed me through the wilderness. This is what the Lord says. What fault did your ancestors find in me that they strayed so far from me? I've heard that in counselling more than once, where one partner's sitting there with tears running down their face and they're saying to the other person, what is it about me that you just couldn't love? What is that? And this is God saying it to his own people. In the very next chapter he says, I give you a certificate of divorce and I'm sending you away. I can't take this any longer. God hates divorce because he's been through one. God is a divorcee. He knows what it feels like to have dreams perish. And as a result, he would keep you from it if he could. But it's going to take two of you to do that. And sometimes when people have found they've given it their best shot and they couldn't make it work, you need to realise, don't run away from God, run to him. He understands the pain of divorce. This is not something that's foreign to God. He understands this pain because he's been through it personally. And he's the safest person with whom to rebuild the rest of your life. And I would encourage you tonight, if you're here tonight and you've been through a divorce, I don't know your circumstances and it's not my issue. But you do need to know this. Whatever happened, come humbly to God's throne and say, I never want to go through that again. Whatever issues were mine, I own them. Forgive me, Lord. And now hear me. Show me how to build a relationship that lasts. He'll do it because God is very gracious. The Ten Commandments are about a permanent life. Now, I can't deal with the theology of that anymore. If you want to argue with me about that, come up, we'll do it after. What do you do when you want it to last? Well, it's the Ten Commandments. It helps, therefore, to know the Ten Commandments. Now, I just happen to know them. Most people don't, but I do. And here they are. First commandment, you shall have no other gods before me. Second commandment, you shall not make for yourself any graven image. Third commandment, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Fifth commandment, you shall honour your mother and your father, that it may be well with you, that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. The sixth commandment, you shall not do murder. Seventh commandment, you shall not commit adultery. Eighth commandment, you shall not bear a steal. Ninth commandment, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbour. 10th commandment, you shall not covet your neighbour's wife, nor his manservant, or his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his cattle, nor anything that is your neighbour's. And every time I say the Ten Commandments, I feel this little glow of inward satisfaction, because I do not believe I have ever coveted an ox in my entire life. So I reckon I've nailed the Ten Commandments, at least that bit of it, pretty much all my life. Some of the others are a bit shaky, but here's the deal. If you say, Al, you just said those, how on earth, what's that going to do for me? What the heck's that going to do? If you understood the wisdom or the spirit of each of these building blocks of permanent relationships, you can build a great marriage, a great business, you can build a great church, you can build a great nation, you can build a great anything, because that's what it takes to bring people together long enough to accomplish something really significant. So let's deal with some. Okay, let's do it. How about the first commandment? Let's do that one. Just briefly. What's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods before me. Here's the skill of making a covenantal relationship with someone that excludes all others, in which you just set yourself lock, stock and barrel into a relationship. Now Jesus put it this way. He said, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it abides alone. And here's the secret. If you're going to get married, you've got to be willing to die. Thanks, Al, that's brilliant. I'm leaving there. No, you've got to hear this. Here's one of the reasons why people never succeed in any of their relationships, because they have never learned to lay their life down. They're always trying to pick it up. They're always trying to be happy. They're always trying to win. And you need to realise that great relationships require an initial step. And the average Aussie doesn't get this. But it's a secret from the past and a secret from heaven. Except a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies. Now, do you want to be alone for the rest of your life? Do you want to be lonely? Then just decide you're never going to die. But if you would like to have amazing relationships, you've got to learn the skill of what it takes to make a covenant. Now, the Old Testament word for covenant is the word berit. And that word has 3 ideas attached to it. Here's the first one, to cut. God said to Abraham, you and I are going to make a covenant. Now, Abraham, I want you to go get some animals and cut them in half. Now, I don't know if you've ever killed a sheep. My mum was a farm girl, so I've seen sheep killed. I want to tell you, if you had to kill your own sheep, you'd probably eat rhubarb. I can tell you that right now, because it's pretty gruesome. God said, go get some animals, Abraham. I want you to cut them in half and separate the body parts. Now, if you ever do that, there's blood all over the floor. What is the point? Anytime you want to make a relationship that's going to go the distance, you've got to ask yourself the question, would I lay down my life for this? This is one of the problems with dating. Sometimes people waste years of each other's life, and they know they wouldn't die for this relationship. Then get out of it, mate. Stop messing around with this person's life. Get out of it. You wouldn't die for this person. See, within 7 days, Helen and I went and met each other in high school. About my first year of uni, I connected with her after school, and we'd been in high school, and I invited her out, and within 7 days, I knew in my gut I could build a life with this girl. I'd had 8 girlfriends that year. Some of those relationships had lasted as long as 4 days. Why? Because I was looking for a wife. I saw my dad in love with my mum. I was looking for a wife. But within hours I could tell I couldn't build a life with this person. They don't have the heart, the calling, the intelligence, the way. I couldn't. Within 7 days I knew I could build a life with this girl. Would you lay your life down for this? Oh, you see, that's where all covenants start. Now we do marriage all wrong. By and large, we need to help young men and women to approach marriage with a different mindset. Because sometimes I think the way we do weddings is all wrong. Kids come and say to me, Pastor, we want to get married. And I say, oh, that's lovely. Why do you want to get married? They say, oh, because we want to be happy. I say, oh, good Lord, don't do this. And they say, no, not get married. I wouldn't get married if you want to be happy. No, marriage is not just about happiness. If you think this is what marriage is about, no, marriage is about a bigger issue than your happiness. It's about the glory of God. It's about God's destiny in your life. It's about generations to come. It's like any idiot can open up an apple and count how many seeds there are in it, but only God can look at a seed and tell you how many apples there are in it. And every single human life, God sees its destiny. He sees the future. He sees the capacity, what life could come out of this. And when you come to the issue of marriage, it's not just about you being happy. You want to be happy, don't get married. No, if you want to be happy, go to Disneyland. That's the place you want. Go to Disneyland. And we dress the church up. We have little silk ribbons down all the seats and the flowers are everywhere. And out comes this dude, the groom, and he's looking amazing. Take a photo of that, sweetheart. You may never see that again. That's what wedding photos are about. And then she pulls up in the car, she gets out. Women have been working on this girl for hours to get her to look like this. Out she comes, little kids are throwing petals everywhere. Where's the blood? I say, where's the blood? What's the point? You come to the point of marriage, you don't come here to live, you come here to die. You come to lay your life down. A single dude comes out to get married. Guess where you get married? You get married at the altar. Guess what happens at an altar? Things die at the altar. You came out that door, young man, to put your old life to death. You used to have money. That's all gone. You ever heard about shoes and handbags, mate? Oh, baby. You have no idea what's coming. You used to be able to do your own thing, come and go whenever you wanted to do, but you came out that door because you said, I found a girl I'd be willing to die for. Well, come up the front here, we'll put your whole life to death, buddy. And you, sweetheart, she gets out of the car, looking amazing, petals going everywhere. Where's the blood? She should be walking there through, what's all this? Well, that's what we're going to do to you if you don't, honour what you're about to say here today. Because this isn't a serious moment. See, oh no, I came here to be happy. No, you didn't. You came to die. That's where all covenantal relationships begin. I am laying my life down for this. Tragedy, Australians think that you start the other end. You go straight to bed, you start having sex, you shack up together, and you try to figure out if it's enough fun to want to commit to. No, that's not how it works. That's how you demean people and damage people. You need to carefully step up to this saying, I would be willing to lay my... Because that's where Barit begins. You cut the cutting. Things die. Your dreams of perfection have to die. See, if you're going to marry an imperfect person and you've got a dream of perfection, that's going to scuttle your relationship. You're going to start thinking you married the wrong person. No, you didn't. No, you just had a dream that you never put on the altar. You had a picture of what you thought it ought to be like, and it's not going to turn out that way. You need to be willing to lay your life down for this because it's so valuable. If God has brought you to this place, what is involved in your marriage is destiny and generations and glory. And as a result, this is something worth dying for. And now comes the second element of a bereavement, and that is to bind. God himself came down the pathway between those bloody animals and made promises to Abraham, made him a promise. I stood beside that little girl 50 years ago and said to her, forsaking all others. She pinned her future to my character and to my promise. And one day God's going to want to talk to me about that. See, I've told her this, I've coached her on this. See, I believe in the resurrection of the dead and I believe in the judgment to come. I believe that one day every human being will render an account to the creator of the heavens and the earth for what they've done in their life. That's why I need Jesus, because see, I've done some things I shouldn't have done. I need the forgiveness of sins. But I know he's going to want to talk to me about this because a little girl pinned her future to my promise. And one day I'll meet Jesus, and the last thing I want is her walking up to Jesus saying, what did you give me this buffet for? What a pain in the butt. I was dragging this reluctant dude up and down hills. Man, it nearly killed me. I want her saying to Jesus, he was a good man. He was an honourable man. He loved me. He demonstrated your kindness to me. Sometimes he was naughty, but I've told him off about that. I really want, in that moment, I want my girl to be able to stand and say, we honoured our commitment to one another, and it was glorious. It was glorious. I made promises to her. And one of the things about promises is that God expects us to honour them the best we can. And then comes the thrill. Yeah, there is joy. There is happiness. Now there's an eating. Out of our relationship has come 4 kids, 4 grandkids, 11 grandkids. 11 grandkids. They're called grandkids because they're better than my own kids. I mean, they're wonderful kids. I wish I should have had them first, I tell you. In fact, grandkids are God's reward for